that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. So lovely earth can stay lovely still. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Energy Week with George Harvey, moi, and the famous Tom Fennell.
All dressed up for this cold room.
Yes. I was going to wear a hat, but I figured, you know, I've been accused of being a Santa Claus wannabe, yeah, or a Santa Claus impersonator. I want everybody to notice I don't have a mustache. Okay,
Santa Claus had a mustache?
Santa Claus always has a mustache.
Oh, okay.
He's my cousin. I know all about it. Okay, every day I get up early. This morning it was about 4 o'clock, 4:15. I slept in, I guess. And I go through the news for the day relating to climate change and energy. And I'm told that Donald Trump himself wants to put me out of business.
We're going to be talking about him a lot today.
That's a lie. But anyway.
He's a heavy hitter this morning.
Yes, he is. Every day I find the news that I think is interesting relating to those subjects, climate change and energy. And for each news item, I put together about a 55 word synopsis, and I put a link on that, assemble 10 to 15 of those, and put them up on my blog, geoharvey.com, GeoHarvey. You can go there. And when we give the dates, if anybody wants to look at a particular article, you can go to the blog, click on the date, and because there's a calendar in the upper left corner, and you can look at the item on that date. So you want to start?
Why not?
Why not? Okay, our first item is from Clean Technica, and I have a capability of being a wise guy, which is where the caption for this picture comes from.
This nice picture.
Nice picture. For those who generate smoke, electricity can be a valuable byproduct.
Yeah, that's a good caption for this. That's really a good caption.
Okay, Clean Technica.
Okay, this one says EU climate package will target energy waste and coal subsidies.
The European Union will start to phase out coal subsidies and reduce energy usage by 30% before 2030, pursuant to the terms of a major clean energy package announced in November. It expects to lower household utility bills, integrate renewables into power markets, and limit use of unsustainable bioenergy. That, I think, is important. Limit use of unsustainable bioenergy. That's important for the United States because they are clear.
What is unsustainable bioenergy?
All you got to do is go to Georgia and you can see it. They clear cut a forest.
And don't let it grow back.
Well, they can let it grow back, but if it were fully sustainable, though, clear cutting a forest is not sustainable.
No, I hear you. Yeah. So they're just cutting the forest down, turning them into wood pellets and selling the wood
shipping
pellets
it to Europe. And, you know, there are big power plants in Drax, for example. Huge sections of the power plant have been converted to wood pellets.
Wood pellets.
And
which they're getting from us probably at bargain prices.
Probably at bargain prices. Yeah. And that is an unfortunate fact. So
the interesting takeaway here that this is a result of a lot of negotiation. I'll read a sentence from it. It's not easy reaching agreements that are acceptable to all EU stakeholders.
Yes.
Much of the package balances the contrasting demands of fossil fuel dependent countries and those such as Germany and Denmark, which already have advanced plans to decarbonize.
Yeah.
And we've talked a lot about Denmark.
Yeah.
They're really leading the pack.
You know, I've read stuff about negotiations in the EU, and it is just crazy what goes on in some of those negotiations, because people in Spain, for example, don't necessarily have any understanding of what's going on in England. Mm-hmm. And you know, they had. I'm reminded of a.
I hear they even speak different languages.
I think they do. I'm reminded of a thing where the Spanish and the French and the Germans, or at least it was the French and the Germans, wanted to ban. They wanted to include gunpowder in a ban of explosives, and the English, who have got very, very tight gun control laws objected.
That's interesting.
And the reason is because people who hunt in the UK don't buy shotgun shells unless they really have to. They reload them. So they need to have gunpowder to do
right,
that.
Right.
What do you know, who's going to know about that? Anyway, just to tell you how hard things can get, should we go on?
Yeah, let's move on
Our
to the
next item is exciting.
Coming back home. This is good.
This is exciting. This is from Cape Cod Com News, capecod.com.
Cape Cod Light Compact going 100% renewable and announces competitive pricing.
Yeah.
So they've hit two.
They've hit the nail right on the head with this one. And there's going to be an article on this. It's a cover article, which I wrote for Green Energy Times, which, by the way, today being the 15th, this item came out on the 8th. And I read it, and I immediately called the editor of Green Energy Times and said, we have to change the cover. This has got to go on the cover. And she said, yes. Okay, Cape Light Compact, the electric utility serving 21 towns in Cape Cod and Martha's Vineyard, has announced that its aggregation power supply load is going with 100% renewable power. That is starting in January of 2017. That is
right away.
Right away, as of the first of, and it depends for individual people, when are their bills put together.
Yeah.
But starting the 1st of January and ending by the 31st of January, all of the houses that they supply with power will be renewable. The
Well,
compact,
This is very interesting because they're creating a whole new model for
Yeah.
electricity distribution.
yeah,
These 12 towns or 21 towns,
21 towns.
none of them is running their own utility. It's a paper utility.
That's right.
They've gotten together.
Right.
They're buying power as a group.
Yep.
And then this other company called
Eversource, which is
is
the big utility in the area.
They're taking care of the wires and the
Right,
hookups. And
right. The compact has teamed with Next Era Energy Services to provide low-price electricity to all its customers. Now, the price that these people are going to be paying for electricity is going to be marginally, very, very small amount of money, but nevertheless less than if they were buying from Eversource.
This is a new model. You're going to see more of this
Well,
happening.
we saw this in Greenfield.
Yes, exactly.
Exactly this, and it was under the same law. It's called community aggregation.
Only difference was Greenfield was one community.
That's
Here's
right.
21.
That's right. This is 21, and it is all of the communities on Cape Cod and all but one on Martha's Vineyard. And I should say not Martha's Vineyard because it's not on Martha's Vineyard. It's in Dukes County, but it's in that county, same county. 6 of the towns are on Martha's Vineyard. One town is not. One municipality is not on
None of
Martha's.
them.
It has a population. I looked it up. A population of 89. It's supplied with diesel. This is not all the people either. There are people who have opted out of this. There are people who are off grid. You know, there's a lot of people on Cape Cod and Martha's Vineyard who are not part of this.
Not on the grid at all.
They're not on the grid, or they're not part of this program. But the program, the default program for electricity on Cape Cod and Martha's Vineyard is 100% renewable.
That's encouraging.
Isn't it nice?
This Eversource, is that a new name for New England Power or something like
Yes,
that?
I think
This is
so.
a big utility.
It's a big
They're
utility.
operating in Connecticut, they're operating
Yeah.
in Rhode Island, I
That's
believe,
right. That's right.
Massachusetts, New
That's right.
Hampshire.
That's right.
They're big.
Yeah, I believe they changed their name last year. Okay, we are still on December 8th. Sorry, I should have announced that this was December 8th when we started. And we're up to an item from Clean Technica.
This is also interesting. This comes from the Netherlands. Only zero-emission cars by 2035. That affects new car sales only.
Yes,
And residential natural gas phase out. And everybody's
everybody's phased out of natural gas.
Phased out.
The Dutch government released a long-term energy plan stipulating that no new cars with combustion engines may be sold from 2035 on. Also, all of the houses in the country, which has been over 50 years, the EU's largest natural gas producer, will be disconnected from the gas grid by 2050. The measure has broad parliamentary support, and I'll bet you they backtrack on this.
You think they will?
Well, there's a couple of reasons.
This country is the home court, if you will, of shell oil.
There's a couple of reasons why they might backtrack, one of which is you can have an internal combustion engine that doesn't produce carbon dioxide.
Yeah, hydrogen.
Hydrogen or ammonia. The other thing is you can have natural gas that is produced from, for example, carbon dioxide in the air, which means that it's carbon neutral.
Yep.
And if you could do that, and 2050, you're still a few years off. They might be able to get big facilities that can do that. Also biogas. So they might want to maintain those pipes. But anyway, there it is. Clean tech.
Well, in any case, it's an interesting thing what they're doing. I mean, they're definitely trying to decarbonize.
Absolutely, that's what they're doing. We are up to Friday, December 9th, and we have a new picture. Beautiful, clean facility out there. Isn't this lovely? There it is. This is the Palisades nuclear plant.
Entergy to shutter Michigan Palisades nuclear plant in 2018.
It's not very far away. This is from Utility Dive. Entergy Corporation announced that it will close down its Palisades nuclear plant in Michigan on October 1st, 2018. It has struck a deal for early termination of a power purchase agreement for the generation, which was to end in 2022. Officials say ending the contract early could save ratepayers $172 million over 4 years.
There's more coming on top of this one. This Pacific Gas and Electric intends to close the Diablo Canyon nuclear plant.
Yes.
And it's New York, and we talked about this one on the show, is struggling to institute subsidies to keep its upstate plants afloat.
That's right.
That's right.
And there's
outside of Rochester there.
That's right. And
they're not making money, but they need the power.
And they're not making money because the power, they're so expensive to run. The utility business, the electric generating business has been turned on its head. Our most, if you look at coal, I'm omitting hydropower here because I don't know what the numbers are. But if you look at coal, nuclear, natural gas in a combined cycle plant, which all the new plants seem to be aside from the peaking plants, solar and wind, and you look at those five, it turns out that the most expensive is the one that most people think is the least expensive, and that's coal.
That's coal, yeah.
The second most expensive, and almost as expensive as coal, is nuclear, which a lot of people think is the cheapest. A lot of people want it because it produces cheap electricity. And what they don't realize is that it doesn't produce cheap electricity. And then below that, the next most expensive, just marginally more expensive than solar, is combined cycle natural gas. Solar is next, and wind is the lowest.
And solar and wind are getting cheaper.
And they're getting cheaper, everything else is getting more expensive. So
Interesting
what
transition.
It
it's going
is.
to be a whole new
And,
model.
and look at, if you want to have something that you can cite on that, look at Lazard Associates. You can do a Google search on Lazard, Lazard, and LCOE, or levelized cost of electricity. You want version 9, which is the current version of that thing, and it will. You'll find if you look at images in a Google search, you'll find the chart that shows you the relative prices of things. Look at utility scale solar, because they also have home solar and community solar and so forth, and combined cycle natural gas and so forth, and they're all compared on the chart.
Well, the times they are changing, and they're changing right now.
Yeah. Lazard, by the way, is a financial advisor.
Yeah.
They have an axe to grind. The axe that they've got to grind is they've got to be accurate in their projections in order to maintain customers. That's one of the reasons I like going to people who, I'm always distrustful of bankers.
I wonder why.
Not all bankers. I've known some bankers who were very nice people and I would trust, but it's kind of like attorneys. I've known a few good attorneys, but you say an attorney is running for office, if you don't tell me who it is and I haven't got some kind of idea, I'm going to say, oh, please, not another. Okay, our next item is from Clean Technica.
Leaked transition team memo outlines Trump's catastrophic energy agenda. We're going to be talking a lot about Trump today.
You know, and the next item also is a leaked memo. So clearly, Trump's Trump's transition team is leaky.
This is a very good and comprehensive article.
Yeah.
I mean, you could spend we could talk the rest of the show on it.
And it keeps coming up in the news. A memo obtained for the Center for Media and Democracy outlining Donald Trump's energy agenda for when he takes office next January has revealed the full extent to which Trump is going to lay waste to America's climate record and clean energy industry. It lists 14 key energy and environmental policies that are planned. And by the way, Donald Trump's choices for his cabinet are very clearly just a list of important people representing special interest groups.
It certainly seems that way.
Wow. I mean, and Mitch McConnell, who's the head of the Senate, from what I can gather, is really kind of furious about this because Trump had promised, you know, we're going to resurrect these coal industry jobs. What's the first thing that he does? He puts people into the cabinet who are from the oil industry, which is killing the coal industry. And, you know, it's like, what has this guy got on his mind? He may be a businessman, but he has got no concept when it comes to politics or diplomacy.
I've got a list of the 14 policies he's talking about.
Right.
And this article has a paragraph on each one of them.
Right.
And I could read all of these things, but you're not
We don't
gonna
have
learn
time for it.
much.
Yeah.
Go back and look at this one.
Yeah.
This is a very long and comprehensive article.
Right.
One
Okay.
thing I will mention about it, though, he's highlighted some key aspects of this energy agenda. The promise to hit reset on what he considers the most harmful parts of the Obama climate agenda, including the Paris Agreement and the so-called Clean Power Plan.
Yeah, and
So he's going to hit these guys hard.
it's really clear that what he's doing is he's giving moral leadership of the world to China and aligning the United States with Russia.
Well,
And
it seems that way. It certainly seems that way.
this is crazy. This is not, I think, what most Republicans had in mind when they voted for Donald Trump, if they voted for Donald Trump, because a lot didn't. Okay, our next item is from Bloomberg.
And it's Trump again.
Trump again.
Trump teams asking for ways to keep nuclear power alive.
Well, by golly, we want to keep nuclear power alive. We're going to put money into keeping nuclear power alive because we want a free market. In a document obtained by Bloomberg, President-elect Donald Trump's transition team asked the Energy Department how it can keep nuclear reactors, quote, operating as part of the nation's infrastructure, end quote, and what it could do to prevent them from being forced out of the market by cheaper natural gas and renewable resources.
Well, you know, word there is market, isn't it?
What? Yeah. I mean, this is actually the people who favor a free market say we want the market to determine things.
As long as it favors us.
Yeah. Well, in this particular case, he doesn't want a free market. He doesn't even want the captive market that the Koch brothers seem to want to call a free market. What he wants is a market in which his buddies get the money they want.
Bingo.
What? And we're supposed to put up with this?
There's a quick takeaway here.
Yeah.
To make sure existing nuclear stays open, you need Congress to pony up subsidies.
Yeah,
And they say that's an uphill battle.
That's an uphill battle. Well, he's going to have some uphill battles, and one of them is going to come up after this program is recorded, but before the next one is, and that's the Electoral College vote.
Yes.
There's a
movement there.
A movement going on. It is named. There are people whose names are in it. It's called the Hamilton electors, and they are electors who have said they will not vote for Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. And it turns out that I think it's about half the states in the United States.
The Constitution doesn't tell them how to vote.
Nope. And in about half the states, there's laws saying that they have to be faithful to what the voters said, and in the rest of them, they can vote technically for whoever they want.
Mickey Mouse.
Right. And there are a lot. Mitch McConnell, again, was among the people who are saying, wait a minute. Donald Trump is nominating Rex Tillerson to be the Secretary of State, and
Who's Rex?
Rex is the CEO of ExxonMobil.
ExxonMobil? I never heard of them.
Yeah, but it happens that Rex Tillerson says he's a really good friend of Vladimir Putin. Are we going to have a real representative of the United States in the Secretary of State, or are we going to have a representative of Vladimir Putin? I mean, this is
Looks like it's a little bit of both, doesn't it?
I have a feeling that it's a little bit of representing not the people of the United States, but Donald Trump and people who own stock in ExxonMobil and Vladimir Putin. But he's not the only one who's in that boat. And you know, when you read the news on this stuff, it's crazy. There was an interview of Ivana Trump that took place in the 1990s. And I've forgotten which magazine it was. It might have been Vox or Salon.
Now, Ivana's the daughter?
Ivana is his wife.
That's the wife.
She was his wife. She is the mother of Ivanka.
Oh, okay. That's why I was getting confused.
Yeah, and she says that Donald Trump used to keep on his bedside table a book that he would read before he went to sleep, which was a compilation of speeches by a man named Adolf Hitler.
Well, gotta admit, he did give good speeches.
Oh, yeah. He gave great speeches. You know, on the King's Speech, Princess Elizabeth asks her father, King George VI, "Daddy, what is he saying?" And and King George says, "I don't know, but he's saying it rather well." He seems to be saying it rather well. Okay, we're up to December 10th.
This is a very interesting one.
This is an interesting little device that I just couldn't avoid putting this in.
No, this is nice. That's not a fishing reel, folks.
Trend in Tech is the source of this.
Portable river turbine hypes up the water power rep.
Isn't this funny?
That's a neat little device.
Isn't that
That's about the size of the rear axle of a car.
Yeah. Staff at a Canadian company, id Energy, or ID Energy, have managed to create a kit that can turn flowing water in a river into as much as 12 kilowatt hours of electricity per day. Well, what that means is 500 watts. It's a little...
That's enough for an off-grid home, but you got to be frugal.
Yeah, or store it. 12 kilowatt hours is actually a fair amount of, this is a fair amount of power. The river turbine is mainly designed for off-the-grid applications such as small communities or remote cabins where it is not logical to be connected to the grid. A small community could be run on a few of these things.
Like when I lived in Wardsboro, I could have powered my house with that. I lived right on a river.
Yeah, there you go.
Put it right in my backyard.
You just don't tell anybody. Otherwise, well, one thing you'd have to do with this is make sure that nobody goes fishing near it.
Yeah.
Because a fishing line could get caught by that thing.
Could do that.
Okay, anyway.
Reading the article, looks like it's easy to put together, too.
Yeah,
it's a kit.
It's a kit. It's designed for people who are tolerably knowledgeable of the difference between a screw and a nail.
I like that.
I think it's cute. Yeah. Our next item is from Grist.
The world's largest solar plant is here.
Well, there you go.
It's in India.
And it's in India. India now has, I get a lot of articles from India, and I see them, and I am very reluctant to put them up because they don't talk about things being in dollars. They talk them about them being in lakhs and crores of rupees, which means you've got to do two conversions. And then on top of everything else, because a lakh and a crore are not part.
They're just numbers.
They're numbers. 10,000 and
100,000, I think.
It's 10,000. I forget.
It's
100,000 and 10 million.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. A crore is 10 million, a lakh is 100,000. And so they put their things in lakhs and crores of rupees. And then when they get to how much power does it produce, it's in units. What is a unit? I don't know. Anyway, here all the work has been done for me, so I put it up. This is from Grist. India now has the world's biggest solar plant. At full capacity, the new 2,500-acre plant in Kamuthi could power up to 150,000 homes and add 648 megawatts to India's electricity generating capacity. The Kamuthi plant was built in just 8 months at a cost of $679 million. India has pledged to get 40% of its power from renewables by 2030.
They probably will succeed. They're definitely on that path.
Yeah.
By the way, 2,500 acres. That's about a square 2 miles on a side.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is
This is big.
big.
This is big. On the other hand, I don't know where Kamuthi is, but a lot of the Indian plants are going in the desert. And so it's not destroying agricultural land. I realize that these big solar fields take up land and they change the environment there. But it's better, I think, than mountaintop removal.
I totally agree.
Absolutely.
And as you said, you think it's in a desert. India does have a lot of desert.
India has a lot of desert.
And some of the pictures we've shown on this program are deserts.
Yes. And by the way, 500 mountains in the Appalachians have had their mountaintops removed.
500.
500.
Wow.
And the rubble from that removal is just tumbled down the side of the mountain
down into
the little streams down below. And I've read that if you put those streams end to end, you'd have a pile of rubble that is over 2,000 miles long.
Wow.
And that's where we're getting our electricity, folks, which is why we need to do something else.
Well, they talk about jobs, but an underground coal mine, it hired about 200 people to run it. Mountaintop removal, 9, 10 people.
Yeah.
And they're talking about jobs.
They're talking about
It's not renewables
jobs.
that are killing jobs in Appalachia.
It's progress, in quotes.
Call it that, yeah.
Okay, our next item is from Solar Industry.
This is the Brattle Group.
The Brattle Group, which has nothing to do with Brattleboro.
Renewables investments eclipse renewable mandates.
This is interesting. The U.S. electric...
Explain what I just said.
Yeah, I'm going to hope to. The U.S. electric power industry has invested in renewable resources well beyond the state's renewable portfolio standards and targets in some regions. A report from the Brattle Group says the Brattle Group is financial advisors.
Financial group, yeah.
Yeah. The regions where this happened have organized regional electricity markets or offer access to low-cost wind and solar potential. In other words, states have renewable energy targets.
Right.
Or renewable portfolio standards, or whatever.
Or something, yeah.
Something. And what this is saying is that a lot of states have exceeded those standards already.
Yes.
So,
And this regional markets is very much like what we were talking about in Cape Cod.
Right, it is, very much. So basically what's happening, and if you look at this thing that we talked about just now, that huge plant in India was built in 8 months. That is 648 megawatts, which is approximately the same capacity as Vermont Yankee nuclear power plant.
A little bit larger, but yeah.
A tiny bit larger. Now, admittedly, it's only going to run about 5 hours a day, as opposed to Vermont Yankee, which would run 24. But it costs $679 million. And if you multiply that by 5, you're still just a fraction of the cost of a nuclear power plant the size of Vermont Yankee. Mm-hmm. So the obvious solution here...
The numbers make sense.
Yeah, the numbers make sense. Build a solar power plant that'll run 5 hours during the daytime, and then other solar power plants that will run the rest of the day at night.
Okay. Well, again...
Wind turbines run at night.
Wind turbines, but the storage business is growing with leaks.
Absolutely, and on top of everything else...
Every day somebody comes up with a new idea.
Yeah, on top of everything else, you've got biodigesters, which we need like mad just to get rid of the waste.
Yeah, absolutely.
And because the waste is disastrous, and with biodigesters, you can turn that waste into stuff which can be used in agriculture.
Yep.
The methane is
suck the carbon out of it.
Yeah, the methane is exchanged for
Suck the
carbon
hydrogen out
dioxide,
of it.
and you can use it to make electricity. So,
That sounds like a win-win situation
it does.
to me.
And those are not the only ways of saving. Okay, so we're up to Sunday, the 11th of December, and we have
got
a
a picture
little
here.
picture there, which is an extremely dull
if I can get this
picture.
picture up.
You get it up, but this is from the BBC, which is why the picture is so uninteresting. I pick up the pictures from the articles, and there are a few pictures that I pick up that come from other places, but really only a few. So go ahead.
Oil-producing countries cut their output to boost prices.
Right.
This
Oh,
has happened before, but not recently.
not recently. 11 oil-producing countries that are not OPEC members agreed to cut their output out to boost prices. The group, which includes Russia, said they will cut production by 558,000 barrels per day. OPEC announced last month it would be reducing its own production to ease an oversaturated global market. And this, as I said, is from the BBC.
This is the first time in 15 years that they were able to agree on a pact.
Yes, and as long as nobody cheats, which of course somebody always does, this did have the effect of driving up the price of oil. But we're back to this old thing. Instantly. We're back to this old thing. We reported, I think it was last week,
Yeah.
that somebody in Dubai, one of the officials in Dubai, had pointed out that the solar power they were purchasing from that 800 megawatt array, the way that was priced so low that in order to compete with it, oil would have to be priced at $5 a barrel.
Long time since that has
Yeah,
been true.
and this has driven up the price of oil to $57 a barrel. A month ago, it was about $10 a barrel below that.
Yeah.
But as the price goes up, it just means that it's going to be easier for renewable power to compete against oil and gas.
Well, that's what markets do, isn't it?
It is.
Just,
Okay.
just in case the people want to know who's in OPEC, I got a quick list.
Oh, okay.
Algeria, Angola, Ecuador, Gabon, Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, Libya, Nigeria, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, and Venezuela.
Now,
Does not
interestingly
include
enough,
Russia.
no, it doesn't,
does not include
which
the
is one of the
United
biggest
States.
oil producers in the world.
Exactly.
But it does include how many countries?
11?
11, 10 of which signed the Paris Agreement in COP21 agreement to reduce carbon emissions. The only one that has not is Iraq. Of those, okay. So we are up to an item that came from. Oh, I'm sorry. I was going
Clean
to.
Technica.
This is Clean Technica. According to documents.
Well, I gotta give you the headline.
Yeah, but
Is Donald Trump planning a climate purge?
right. According to documents obtained by Politico, Donald Trump's transition team has asked the Energy Department to cough up the names of any employees who have worked on President Obama's climate initiatives, including all who have worked on, quote, social cost of carbon, end quote. It looks like a witch hunt is already underway. And
That's horrible.
It's horrible. It really is. And one of the things that is about this story is that it simply gets repeated in the news over and over again. Its presence in the news gets repeated over and over. This is something that has not gone away, and it may not have gone away yet, although somebody clearly tried to put an end to it yesterday. So should we continue?
Yeah, I was going to say something about this, but let's pass on to the next one. At
Okay.
least we got a nice picture here.
Yes, this is from the Statesman. Actually, that's a kind of a scary picture.
They're still nice.
It's a beautiful
It
picture.
is scary.
It is scary.
Those aren't clouds, folks.
No, those aren't clouds.
Climate change behind deadly Tibet avalanche.
All right, now I want to point out that avalanche that you see on the screen did not happen in Tibet. This is a different avalanche, and I actually looked into it. I don't think anybody was hurt in this one. Climate change may be to blame for a deadly avalanche in Tibet, a study found. On July 17th, more than 70 million tons of ice broke off from the Aru Glacier in the mountains of western Tibet. Glacial collapse is unprecedented in that area of Tibet, which for decades has seemed to resist the effects of climate change. The avalanche in Tibet killed a number of yak herders, and I believe also a number of yaks.
I would expect.
But it was, I forget whether it was 7 or 8 or 9 yak
I think
herders.
it was 9.
Was it 9?
Yeah.
Okay. So it was deadly.
Interesting thing about this avalanche, it only lasted 4 or 5 minutes,
Yeah.
and it managed to bury 4 square miles of land in
Yes.
that 4 or 5
Which
minutes.
is why these guys could not get out of the way.
No,
I mean, they were on land below
way below,
Where-
flat land where they were grazing.
where they were grazing, and you'd think that snow falling off a mountainside for 5 minutes, they'd be able to run away, but there's no way they could run fast enough to get away from this thing. Okay, we're up to the 12th of December, which is Monday, and we have to talk about this image.
We got a picture for this
from
one,
Seeking Alpha. You've already
put
got it up.
It's up already.
It's up already.
You're getting ahead of me, George.
Yeah, I know.
The Energy and Information Administration. Lack of math and logic skills makes for an interesting investment environment.
Right.
That's what this picture
That's
is all
what the
about.
picture's all about.
And it's going to take some explaining.
Every year, the U.S. DOE's Energy Information Administration releases an annual energy outlook. Every year, it projects that renewable energy will slow down, but the EIA projections have never done with portraying reality, never done well with portraying reality. And this graph really shows it. And by the way, the EIA projections and the fact that they were used persistently is one of the reasons that I don't even bother looking at
EIA's projections.
Breitbart News.
Okay.
Because everything that I've seen from them on projections went back to these EIA projections, which are always wrong, or at least have been since I started doing this about 5 years ago. And the stuff that they do about things that have already happened and current conditions are I found when I really tried to find out where they were getting their numbers. This is Breitbart, which, by the way, is advising Donald Trump. They used figures that were 4 or 5 years old, which meant that nothing was right. Nothing was right. Okay.
Let's look at these graphs, because what seems to be happening to me is that the EIA is projecting, in almost all cases, relatively flat growth.
They are projecting
and the reality
flat growth.
is that these things are growing much faster than
Yes, yeah. I mean, basically what this says, what you can see by looking at this is not only is the growth flat, all of those lines that flatten out on the right of this picture are projections from the EIA. And the lower ones are the oldest ones. So that, for example, you'll see I have a little bit of color blindness, so I might come up with the wrong color here. But there is one that starts in 2012.
That's a dark blue one on the bottom.
Dark blue. The one above that is kind of a, what would you call that?
Light orange.
Light orange?
It's the lightest orange.
Okay, and that starts at 2013.
2013.
And then there's a light blue one that starts in 2014.
Yep.
And an orange one that starts in 2015.
Yep.
And this one's kind of hard to read because there's a light blue one that goes up to 2016, and then a dark blue one starts there.
Well, the dark one is the projection.
The dark one is the projection starting in 2016, and the steepest line is that orange line. That is the actual amount of utility plus distributed solar power that has been installed. In other words,
that's a real figure.
That's a real figure. The EIA is projecting that we're going to get to something lower than that by 2020. But I want to point out another thing too, and that light blue line that the dark blue line picks up from is the part of the solar power that was installed to date that was utility scale. And it is from that utility scale that the current EIA projections go. But if you look previously, they all start in the middle of no place. people. In other words,
They're all
the
starting at
EIA,
the year that they
Yes.
say they start in.
those projections all start for the year at a point that is lower than the amount that's already been installed by the utility scale
That's a very
developers.
interesting and accurate point.
It is
right there.
There it is right there. And, you know, they say, okay, from 2015, they say, okay, we're going to see a moderate increase in 2016, 2017. I'm speaking of that kind of orangey graph that starts, a line that starts in 2015, and then it flattens out. And what they're saying it's going to progress to is something that was already lower than the amount that they already had in place. This is not helpful, folks. They're not, and these are the people who are advising Congress. No wonder Congress is so screwed up. Okay, should we go on?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, let's go on.
We're still on Monday.
We're still on Monday.
And we're still on Trump.
And we're still on Trump, but we should probably take that picture off the screen so people's heads don't, you know. Okay.
Yeah,
Donald Trump, CNN.
Trump could face Capitol Hill showdown with the Tillerson pick.
Donald Trump won't get Rex Tillerson as Secretary of State without a fight. Nominating the ExxonMobil tycoon for the position could ignite a showdown between President-elect and senators in his own party. His own party? I'm sorry. His party isn't the Republicans. His party is the Trump Party. He is the head of the Trump Party. Tillerson has a close relationship, by the way, with Vladimir Putin, and the CIA says Russia likely intervened in the presidential election. And so you've got Mitch McConnell, who is the head of the Senate, and who is a Republican, and who comes from a coal state, who was promised by Donald Trump that he would resurrect coal, it sees that he's making Rex Tillerson the Secretary of State.
Who's a coal man, right?
Who's an oil and gas man, and oil and gas has been putting coal out of business, at least as
happening to a great degree.
Yeah,
especially
to a great degree, gas, and we've seen a couple of other oil people into the cabinet, and Mitch McConnell is clearly upset. We've got Republicans upset because we've got a cabinet that is basically really friendly. I don't want to say in bed with, because I don't know that they actually sleep together, but you know, they seem to be altogether too close to the Russians. So Donald Trump is going to have a fight,
this
and honestly,
again is one of those in-depth articles. There's
Yes.
a lot of meat here.
Yeah.
And it gets into detail. I'll give you a quick takeaway. The potential selection of a millionaire oil titan also offers insight into Trump's vision of diplomacy as akin to the wheeler-dealer world of big business.
which
This
it
is
ain't.
what he sees.
It ain't though.
And his disdain for concerns that the web of business connections surrounding him and future members of his cabinet pose unacceptable conflicts of interest.
A few. I
More than several.
wonder if there's anybody he's nominating for any position who doesn't represent some sort of conflict of interest.
So far, they seem to be.
Every single one of them.
So far, they seem to be.
They are, there's a word, plutocracy, which is a government by the extremely wealthy. And it looks like we're migrating in that direction. There is a thing called...
But it's a selective extremely wealthy.
Yes. There's a thing also which I've seen coming up in the news describing these people called a kleptocracy,
Yeah.
which is a government by thieves.
That's more likely what's going on.
Yeah. And
It's always been all you can steal.
Well,
$100,000 in all you can steal.
I don't know. Honestly, I think there have been people in our government, in our past, who have not had that position at all.
Yeah, a few.
You know, I don't think that, for example, Theodore Roosevelt was out to take people for their money.
I agree.
And, you know, I think that Bernie Sanders
example.
would not be, but yeah, good example.
Good example, yeah. Bernie has been traditionally the least wealthy person in Congress.
Well, Theodore Roosevelt came from
He
a
had
wealthy
money.
family,
He had money.
but it's really interesting to me. Theodore Roosevelt's platform for the Bull Moose Party in 1912 looked like a serious predecessor for Bernie Sanders' platform.
Very much so.
Very much.
100 years later, and we're still talking about the same stuff.
Yeah, except for women getting a vote, and the length of the work week being reduced to 48 hours.
Mm-hmm.
You know, things have gone a little bit past that, but okay. Donald Trump said he still doesn't think climate change is really happening in an interview on Sunday, 11 December. Quote, "I'm still open-minded, nobody really knows," end quote, he said after Fox News anchor played a clip in which he calls climate change, quote, "a big scam for a lot of people to make a lot of money," end quote.
Well, as you know, he's repeatedly called it a hoax.
Yeah, well, he's also in it to make a lot of money, so this is a little bit out of whack as far as I'm concerned. Should we go on? We have to go on.
Yeah, we're
running
move
out
on.
of town.
This also is an in-depth article.
The
one
business,
we're talking about, the international Times.
business. Okay, we're up to Tuesday, December 13th,
Yep, here we go.
and here we go.
We got a picture here.
Yeah, we do.
Let's get
There
it
we
on.
go. This is from Raw Story.
Let me get the picture up first.
Do that.
There we go. Mysterious crater in Antarctica ice sheet explained.
By the way, this is not a picture of the crater.
No.
The crater is
But it
a
is the
circular.
ice sheet.
Yeah, it's a circular crater about 1.25 miles across. In early 2015, scientists announced the discovery of an almost circular structure in the Antarctic ice surface, about 2 kilometers, 1.2 miles wide. Now, a team of climate researchers has found that the mysterious crater in the King Baudouin ice shelf shows that East Antarctica ice sheet may be more vulnerable to climate change than expected. The ice sheet's falling apart.
It is that. Now, this is interesting because I'm looking at this and I'm saying, well, this is a floating ice sheet. You know, it's like an ice cube in a drink.
It ain't here.
It melts and it doesn't change the level of the water in
Right.
the drink. But this is what's happening. These floating ice sheets have been confining the land-based ice sheets.
Right.
And with them getting out of the way, the land-based ice sheets are moving out into the sea, and when they melt, they raise the level of the sea.
That's right. Goodbye, Miami. Okay, our next item is from Power Magazine.
Back home.
I love these pictures of wind
Back
turbines
home.
being
Look at the picture of this one.
being put up. You know, they're
This is very timely.
yes.
The first U.S. commercial offshore wind farm starts operations.
The Block Island Wind Farm is supplying power to the grid, making it America's first offshore wind facility. Deepwater Wind and project partners have commissioned a 30-megawatt installation off the coast of Rhode Island, and it is now delivering power to the New England electric grid via a 20-mile-long submarine cable.
And that is one of the actual towers.
Yeah, and that is a ship that has been jacked up by putting jacks on the
yeah.
ocean floor. I love these.
Fascinating ship.
Yeah.
We've talked about that.
Many
That's
times.
Just especially made for this job.
Yep. Our next item comes from,
Little quick takeaway here.
Yes.
It was completed on time and on budget.
right, important.
That's important. That's
Yep.
significant.
And our next item, I'm not going to be able to read this because it got copied badly.
Well, I can read part of it.
Okay.
The U.S. solar market sees its largest quarter ever.
According to GTM Research and the Solar Energy Industries Association Q4 2016 U.S. Solar Market Insight Report, 4,143 megawatts of solar power were installed in the United States in the third quarter of the year, a rate of 1 megawatt every 32 minutes. And
That's a lot.
it's a lot. And what I don't have here is that they're saying the fourth quarter will probably exceed that. That's a lot.
I think I've got something on that. 200,000 plus jobs.
200,000 plus.
The
which
U.S.
is
solar industry has proven that when you combine smart policies with smart technology, consumers and businesses both benefit.
right. This 200,000 jobs is more than double the number of jobs in the coal industry, mining coal.
This is very significant.
Yeah.
This is very, and at least as far as the East Coast is concerned, this, I think, is the very first project that's come to completion. We got a whole Atlantic shelf up there.
Yes, that's right. And there's been other stuff coming up in the news with organizations saying that they want to take one part or another of it and develop it. There was one that came up today.
Yeah, New York State.
No, there was one in Massachusetts that was in today's news.
Today's news,
yeah.
okay.
And they're talking about 2,000 megawatts off the coast of Martha's Vineyard.
2,000 megawatts.
2,000.
That's 2 gigawatts.
2 gigawatts.
That's big.
That's big. And it's far enough away from Martha's Vineyard that I think you probably wouldn't be able to see it.
You have to have really strong binoculars.
Well, it's more than strong binoculars. You're going to have really great weather conditions because it's 20 miles away.
Yeah, over the sea.
Over the sea, yeah. Okay, keep going. We're up to December 14th.
Wednesday, December 14th.
That's
I got
correct.
It.
Oil
Back
and gas.
to Trump again.
Yep, oil and gas investor. Go ahead.
Trump cabinet positions fill up with oil and gas advocates.
Again, Donald Trump's nominees for the Secretary of Energy and State and the EPA administrator are creating a growing hydrocarbon council in his administration. While generally thought to be good for oil and gas, the ramifications remain unclear. The government perception of fossil fuels will doubtless change. This is from Oil and Gas Investor, a publication that has its own axe to grind, clearly.
Yeah.
There you go.
What's its name again?
Oil and Gas Investor.
I wonder who they are, huh?
Yeah, and they're friends with, these people are like friends with Vladimir Putin, the Russians are the biggest oil exporters around, so.
Well, we're in for some interesting times.
We are in for interesting times. And again, we mentioned the Hamilton electors. We don't even know for sure that Donald Trump is going to be the next president.
Well, we don't know that. It's high probability. But
High
you're
probability
right.
as of this coming Monday, which is what, the 19th? We will find out.
That's the day they voted.
They vote,
Yeah.
but if they don't vote for him, if he doesn't get a majority of the vote, if he loses about one out of 6 people who are going there to vote for him, the whole thing's going to go before the House of Representatives. But it's going to go before the House in a very strange form.
Yeah, each state gets one vote or something
Each
like
state
that,
gets one vote, and of course what that means is
Vermont counts more than New York, or as much as New York.
Vermont counts as much as New York, but the overwhelming majority of states voted for Trump. But it doesn't mean they're going to vote for Trump.
Correct.
They could vote for somebody else, and that some person. What's going to happen is the Electoral College is going to give.
Someone must get a majority.
Yeah, the Electoral College is going to send 3 people's names. One of them is going to be Donald Trump, almost certainly. One of them almost certainly is going to be Hillary Clinton. Mm-hmm. Who is the third? We don't know.
No, we don't.
It could be any of a whole bunch of people, so we'll just have to see. Probably won't happen.
Will they keep voting till they come up with something?
No, they vote once.
They vote only once.
At least that's what I understand. Okay.
Going to be interesting.
Yep.
Okay, this
next one is
from the Washington Times.
Washington Times.
Energy Department rebuffs Trump's request for a list of climate change workers.
Yeah.
We just touched base on this.
We did. In another sign that the transition isn't proceeding as smoothly as President Obama professes, the Energy Department refused on Tuesday to provide President-elect Donald Trump's team with a list of federal employees who have worked on climate change programs. The Trump's transition team did not explain the request.
Well, the White House explained it. Career civil servants are evaluated based on merit and not on politics.
Right. And what has happened today, and we will talk about this next week, I think, is the Trump transition team said, "Oh, we didn't mean that." The person who said that was not speaking officially, and he has been counseled on the subject.
Oh, that's nice.
Isn't that nice? I would think that he would be fired on the subject, but Okay, and our last item coming up
one more left to go.
is from the Christian Science Monitor. Isn't this a lovely picture?
Oh, yeah. Nice field full of
Corn.
drilling rigs.
Here, I thought that was corn stubble. Go ahead.
It is. In a U-turn, the EPA says fracking can pose a threat to drinking water. This is a significant point because they've been ducking that issue.
That's correct. When the EPA released its draft report in 2015 on the safety of hydraulic fracturing, or what they call fracking, industry groups seized on one sentence as proof that fracking is safe, a conclusion that the process has no national, quote, widespread systemic impact, end quote, on drinking water. Now, the final report is out, and that particular sentence has been removed.
Well, they seem to be covering their bets. They're not saying with any certainty how severe the risk is to drinking water. And it details many remaining gaps in knowledge and data.
Yeah.
But at least this is a U-turn.
This is a U-turn. And basically, I think people should know, fracking requires an enormous amount of water.
And they got to do something with
And
that
they
water.
have to do something with that water. And they
So what
don't
do
want
they
to
do?
treat it. They
They dump
can't
it back
release
down
it.
underground.
So they pump it underground. And when it goes underground, nobody knows what it's going to do, except that we do know that in Oklahoma it has caused some earthquakes.
Apparently it did.
Oklahoma used to have about one earthquake every 10 months. Now they have about 1,000 a year. And I'm not kidding about that. That is the number. The state of California has fewer earthquakes now than Oklahoma. Another thing, of course, is you can watch that movie Gasland, Josh Fox's movie. Have you
I've
seen
seen
it?
that movie, yeah.
Horrible. I mean, it's a good movie, but it's a horrible circumstance. And we have stuff coming up on the surface of the ground because they haven't done their geology perfectly, which is hardly a surprise because everything's covered with hundreds of feet of rock, so you can't see it.
Good point.
How smart are human beings? Well, hopefully there's
It's
going
not
to be
about smart, it's about money.
It's about money. There's our
Well,
Energy Week goodbye.
I think we've got them all, don't we?
I think we do. So with that having been said, it is time to say goodbye to you. Have a lovely week, a perfectly lovely week, and see you next time. Bye-bye. We spin and we toil, we work all day, sowing and reaping, we store goods away, so we can be dressed well on the day that we die. We dig and drill and waste what we find, break up the earth, leaving little behind, but we will grow lilies in the by and by. I want to point out that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will.